What's up, Penn Staters? Welcome to the Football Letter Podcast. This week, we welcome superstar volunteer leader Jeremy Omard. Jeremy is a 2013 Penn State graduate and the president of our African American Alumni Organization in Washington, D.C., one of several AAAO groups we have in the Alumni Association. Coming up this fall in October, we'll host the Black Alumni Reunion, and we'll ask Jeremy about what's planned and what he's looking forward to. Jeremy is also a member of our Alumni Council, and he'll share what it means to stay connected to Penn State in ways that are meaningful to him. Jeremy Omard, our good friend, we are so thrilled you're joining the podcast. How are you doing today, sir?
John, thanks for having me. And depending on what time zone you are, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of our wonderful listeners.
Yes, good vibes coming to you from Jeremy Omard. Jeremy, the Black Alumni Reunion is set for the weekend of October 25th through 27th at the University Park campus. Can you share a little bit about what's planned and what Penn Staters have to look forward to that weekend?
Yeah, so for those who don't know, the Black Alumni Reunion takes place every 2 years. And for Black Alumni Reunion 2024, we have a lot on our agenda. One, we have our Greek organizations that are participating in the STEP show, so wonderful entertainment for all of our attendees. As always, we want to continue to pay it forward to the next generation of Penn Staters. So we also have networking events that are sprinkled throughout the weekend to reach out to the students and help them in any avenue that we can provide guidance to. One of our marquee events is our Legend Luncheon that honors distinguished Penn State alumni who have contributed to the greater cause of advancing education within the Penn State ecosystem. So we want to continue to reward those who continue to pay it forward. And then we also close out with our Sunday brunch, which is a nice little farewell event for those who made the journey up to State College. One last opportunity to connect with friends, family, and loved ones, get some good food, and then make your journey back to your respective place for origin.
Jeremy, you mentioned the networking. How important is peer-to-peer networking during the reunion? And in addition to connecting Penn Staters back to Penn State, but also connecting them with one another and making those connections?
I think it's of the utmost importance because a lot of our undergraduates just don't realize how vast the Penn State network is. I like to joke, during my tenure with IBM, I participated in IBM's Corporate Service Corps, which is the corporate equivalent of the Peace Corps. And I deployed to the Philippines for a month and actually ran into a Penn Stater. And the only reason I knew that they went to Penn State was we were both watching the Ohio State game. The Philippines is 12 hours ahead of the East Coast. So in the middle of the early morning in the Philippines, and while everyone's trying to tune into a meeting, we're just vocally upset because Penn State was playing Ohio State and it wasn't our best show of performance. So at the conclusion, we both looked at each other because we both realized we were actually watching the game. And then we ultimately realized not only did we both go to Penn State, but we both graduated in 2013. So there are literally Penn Staters all around the world. And just being able to connect with a Penn Stater, you don't know how that's going to change your life in the long run.
Absolutely. The Philippines, whether it's in this country, outside the country, on another continent, it's such a great story, the Philippines watching Penn State football. For the Black Alumni Reunion, Jeremy, is there one or two things maybe that you're looking forward to or kind of what are you thinking about when you look ahead to that weekend and what's planned?
So one, just connecting with literally everyone who I haven't seen since all things COVID. I feel as though a lot of Penn State organizations across the country and even internationally, they had to change how they operated during the early onsets of COVID. Some of those organizations haven't recovered 100%, but a lot of the organizations are still active. So just being able to see familiar faces to me is something that's immensely important. Also, I'm also looking forward to the STEP show. It's the first time that we've included the STEP show within the Black Alumni Reunion. So a good way to showcase our Greek organizations, but also a great way to provide entertainment and value add to our attendees. We want to shake things up for this Black Alumni Reunion and do things that we haven't done before. So moving forward to 2026, 2028 and beyond, we hope to continue to introduce some new events within the Black Alumni Reunion schedule.
Speaking of good times and engagement and connecting with one another and with Penn Staters, we said at the top, Jeremy, you're the president of our AAAO of Washington, D.C. It's one of 5 AAAOs we have. In addition to D.C., we also have Pittsburgh, Philly, Atlanta, and Los Angeles. For the benefit of our audience, can you share a little bit about the mission of the AAAOs and how Penn Staters can learn more and get involved?
Yeah, so I think the beauty of the AAAOs is the fact that many of us who come from underrepresented groups, we understand that we have the unique experience while we attended Penn State, whether you were at University Park, whether you were at Behrend, we had to traverse, for lack of better words, a very interesting landscape. For some places, we were the first group of African Americans that some of the students were actually able to attend to or actually meet. For others, they grew up in areas that were extremely diverse. So with that being said, we understand that some people loved their Penn State experience. Some people found it relatively challenging. And the goal of the AAAOs is to provide the safe space for our African American alumni and those who support the mission of AAAO. So that way they can understand that the Penn State Fund doesn't have to end at the conclusion of your undergraduate career. If anything, the AAAOs provide you with a safe space to continue to live all things Penn State, but also connect with a community that you're pretty much familiar with. And for those who are outside of the African American community, but just want to continue to participate in the event, we open our arms and doors to everyone who wants to just continue to see what we do, become very versed in some of our marquee events and things of that nature. DC, we benefit from the fact that outside of Pennsylvania, we have the largest Penn State alumni populace. So, for example, in DC, we partner with the Professional Women Network of DC, as well as the Metro Washington chapter as well. So very diverse group of organizations within the DC ecosystem. And we definitely have Penn Staters from all walks of life who come to our events.
Jeremy, that's a perfect transition to what I was going to ask you next in terms of the importance of networking. Obviously, within the AAAO, you're networking with Penn Staters, but the group itself has also been collaborating with Penn State groups and also, just groups in the Washington, D.C. area. Can you give a few examples of how you've grown the social footprint of the Penn State Alumni Network and the importance of that as well?
Yeah, so for us, I think one of the easiest things that we were able to capitalize on was Maryland. Penn State comes to Maryland to play Maryland, or as I like to say, another Penn State home game, just in a different state. So we partnered with other organizations such as the Metro Washington chapter and the Professional Women's Network, just to bring all the Penn Staters together for one marquee event. And from there, we've been able to not only just show that Penn State is everywhere, Penn State has something to offer for everyone, but it also allows those who are coming into the DC metro area to really just have another place that they can call home when it comes to coming to Penn State events, expanding their network, and just having a good time at the end of the day.
I was going to ask you this later on in the interview, Jeremy, but I'll ask you now. The idea of representation, you talked about the AAAOs. Also, when you serve on Alumni Council, how important is it to let Penn Staters know from underrepresented backgrounds that they are represented here at Penn State and also within, their role as, it's not a 4-year decision, it's a 40-year decision when they graduate, that they will continue to be represented?
Yeah, I think it's of the utmost importance. As you're familiar with, outside of my role with IBM, I also do a lot of university recruiting. And I've been invited to various campuses to do speaker and engagement series. And some of the comments that I receive after my presentations are, especially from students of color, is the fact that they didn't realize that someone who looks like me could be in a position of power when it comes to navigating corporate America. So just being able to kind of just show the examples of what a leader is throughout the Penn State ecosystem, whether it's corporate America, whether it's just working with nonprofit organizations, I think it really does pay dividends both to our students. It allows them to understand that they have the opportunity to be that next generation business leader or nonprofit leader. But for some of our more seasoned alumni, I think it also gives them hope to continue to do great things within their career journey as well.
You are tuned into the Football Letter podcast. We are talking with volunteer leader Jeremy Omard. Jeremy is a 2013 Penn State graduate, the president of our AAAO organization in Washington, D.C., and Jeremy, you're also a member of Alumni Council, which is our governing board of the Alumni Association. From a volunteer perspective, what are your priorities when you're attending those meetings, you're having those conversations, and you're representing, alumni from your area?
Yeah, so for me, because I've been so involved with alumni interest groups, alumni programming groups, and chapters, I bring a lot of experience and perspective when it comes to supporting our affiliate committee to ultimately provide value add and understanding of what some of these local groups are actually going through when it comes to experiences, when it comes to estimating their budget, recruiting, doing social media and things of that nature. because I've been so involved literally since I graduated from Penn State. I'm able to really just serve as a liaison, hear what the community is saying about their priorities or some of their shortcomings or pain points, and echo that to our fellow council members so that we can continue to find how we can support the various organizations within the Alumni Association at the end of the day.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you because you're right. Like, as soon as I feel like you walked off the graduation stage and just like it was automatic in terms of being a volunteer leader. What was that something that you knew you wanted to do like as a student? Because some people they graduate, they get involved with their careers, 5, 10 years go by and then they get involved. What was it about your experience that made you want to get involved right away?
Yeah, so I always say that Penn State provided me with literally friends of a lifetime. Some of my best friends from Penn State were my groomsmen in my wedding. So it shows that the caliber of people who attend Penn State are just perfect in my opinion. I wouldn't bring them into my wedding if they weren't great people. But I knew when I graduated, I wanted to be involved with Penn State. I didn't know how involved. I didn't know if I wanted to take a leadership role or anything of that nature. And it just kind of organically happened. And I think it was also because I was just involved as a student leader. So it just made sense once I graduated, once I understood what some of the organization's mission was or what their strategic goals were, to just transition into a leadership role. Now, the AAAOs is very interesting because when I did graduate from Penn State, I didn't realize that the Alumni Association had the AAAO at all. I actually went to the grocery store and I saw someone with a Penn State shirt. So, of course, I said, "We are," and they replied, "Penn State." So we got into a long conversation and he said, "Hey, I'm a member of the AAAO DC." And I was like, "I've never heard of you guys." So he connected me with the president at the time, and I've been involved ever since.
No, that's great to hear, and it's also I think that's a good example, or it's a good word that you used, organically. For Penn Staters tuning in, sometimes they wonder, "How can I get involved?" And we've heard from volunteers, it can be as simple as just go to a meeting, send an email, just start off kind of slowly, and then before you know it, you're very much involved. So that was yeah, going grocery shopping, and next thing you know, you're right getting right back to getting connected with the Penn State affiliate group.
Absolutely.
With Alumni Council, Jeremy, my sense is, and from talking with volunteers, most alumni have heard of Alumni Council. They're somewhat familiar with it. They know that it's something that exists. Are there one or two things about being on Alumni Council that is important for our alumni to know that may not automatically come to mind for them?
Yeah, so I'd say the two things that automatically come to my mind, if you're involved in any type of group within Penn State, voice your concerns to an alumni council member that you know. There probably is one in your city, because that's the best way to get some of your concerns just put out on the floor and having someone to advocate for your organization. But for those who are just completely unaware of what Alumni Council does, like you said, they're the governing body of the Penn State Alumni Association. And I think a lot of people don't realize a lot of the behind the scene work that the Alumni Council members really spearhead, everything from volunteer awards to looking at budget and finance, to doing audit and risk management, to supporting our affiliate groups, and just really helping to provide a better experience for Penn State alumni across the board.
Yeah, absolutely. And so to follow up on what Jeremy said, Alumni Council meets twice a year. We have representatives from our affiliate groups to ensure that, our leaders here at the Alumni Association are hearing about the alumni experience, what's important to Penn Staters in their communities. And so I think that was a really good point you made, Jeremy. If something's going on in your area, reach out to your alumni chapter rep, reach out to somebody here at the Alumni Association. And so those are things that we want to hear from folks. And so, Jeremy, I just want to say thanks for being on Alumni Council. It's a volunteer role. There's a lot of work involved. We know when Alumni Council comes into the Alumni Center that weekend that there's a lot going on. So yeah, just wanted to say thanks, and just wanted to take a moment and say thanks, Jeremy, for all that you're doing for us.
No problem. I love what I do. So honestly, it doesn't feel like a job. And to your point, I joke and say this is probably my favorite meeting of the day. I have marathon meetings right after this, but extremely excited to just be able to continue to speak to other Penn Staters.
Following on this idea of service, we talked about it last year, but you also brought it up earlier. This idea about paying it forward for the next generation of Penn Staters, that sense of wanting to give back, that sense of wanting to serve. How did that developed for you, not just as a Penn Stater, but as a person, because it feels like this is who you are as a person?
Yeah, so as a person, I'll cover both sides of the conversation, but as a person, I can directly correlate that to September 11th. At the time, I was still living in New York. It kind of felt personal because every New Yorker, they love New York, even if they leave New York. You never truly leave New York. So when September 11th happened, I took it personally. I wanted to do something for my community, my state, my nation, and give back at the end of the day. Fast forward to 2024, I'm still a officer within the Maryland Defense Force, which is Maryland's volunteer state organized militia. We fall under the Maryland Military Department, which comprises of the Maryland Army, Air National Guard, as well as the State Defense Force. Currently, I serve as a commander for the 256 Cyber Defense Unit, providing all things cyber to the state of Maryland, partners in the state of Maryland, and the local economy at the end of the day. But I know for a fact that really spearheaded me just wanting to continue to give back to my community, state, and nation. Now, to answer your question from a Penn State perspective, one of the organizations that I was involved during undergrad was Fast Start. So I was a student mentor, and they connected me with a freshman at the time who was a computer engineer. He was really struggling to grasp some of the programming methodologies, and we just had a nice conversation. I shared with him that, hey, I interned with IBM. I had the full-time job lined up. All I had to do was graduate. So the opportunities are there if you continue to hit the books, really understand where your shortcomings are. And if you need help, ask for help, because Penn State really is good at providing assistance to their students. So you just have to make sure that you ask for it. And having that conversation with the student at the time, it was nice to be able to share my knowledge, some of my pitfalls or mistakes I made earlier in my undergrad career, so that way he can continue to traverse academia. At the end of the day, he graduated. He took a sweet engineering job at a firm that I can't remember off the top of my head at the moment. But that was really an eye-opening experience for me, to really just be able to work with another student who was highly motivated and really wanted to just grasp all things technical. And from there, as an alumni, I participated in Fast Start for several years. And to me, it was just a great way to continue to work with students who just really were hungry to become a practitioner in a technical regard, since, of course, that's my area of expertise. But just giving back to that next generation of students has just been something that I continue to do ever since.
Yeah, Jeremy mentioned the Fast Start mentoring program. That's a mentoring program that we have here at the Alumni Association. It pairs students from underrepresented backgrounds with Penn State alumni and Penn State staff members. We are actually opening up the applications for mentors. So we're looking for mentors. So since you brought it up, Jeremy, what would be your pitch or your advice to a Penn Stater who, hey, this Fast Start mentoring program, it sounds interesting, maybe I could help out? Like, what would be your advice for, kind of nudging them in the direction and becoming a mentor?
Yeah, so for mentors, I would always say go in with an open mind. You just never know what type of help or assistance that our current students need. Sometimes they just want to hear your career journey, understand that life happens. You can make a mistake in undergrad, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you won't be successful post-grad. Sometimes they just want to kind of understand what's available after they graduate. They kind of already understand some of the academic curriculum, but they may not have a quote unquote real world understanding of what opportunities are available to them once they get their degree. So they may just want to pick your brain in that regard. But for mentors, just go in with an open mind and a clear heart, and really just try to figure out where your student is at the end of the day and how you can provide value to them. I think if you just do that, you'd be good to go.
Yeah, that's such great advice. We talk with students at the Fast Start reception and just throughout the year, and just listening to them, just kind of asking what we would consider simple questions can be really helpful, because you've been there, you've done that. Professionally, Jeremy, you're a senior managing consultant in the hybrid cloud management practice of IBM Consulting. I had to study that just to get all that job title right. Providing IT infrastructure, security support, and thought leadership to your client base. That sounds like really heady stuff. How did your time at Penn State prepare you for your career path and put you in a position to be successful?
So I feel like this is my shameless plug for Penn State education, but I will honestly say, so right after undergrad, so my first full-time project with IBM was with U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. And at the time, it was IBM's first federal agile software development project. And when I joined that project, it was just amazing because my last MIS capstone class focused on all things agile software development. So I hit the ground running when we had our daily stand-ups, when we were working with some of our key stakeholders, and we were just listening to their pain points and understanding just best practices from IT operation and service management perspective. I was just like, oh my gosh, so this is what all my professors were talking about. And this is why they made sure that we listened to the user, we documented their requirements, and we didn't just jump straight into solutioning like some technical professionals tend to do. And it was just amazing to really just be able to say that what I learned during undergrad actually applied to the real world, and it allowed me to have a seamless transition. My project was also staffed with other graduates from other Big Ten universities who I will not name, who didn't know anything about agile software development. So kudos to the Penn State curriculum for actually providing real world experience and just a course load that really prepared me to just hit the ground running when I took my first big boy job at IBM.
You are tuned into the Football Letter podcast. We are speaking with Jeremy Omard. Jeremy is a 2013 Penn State graduate, the president of our AAAO in Washington, D.C. He's a senior managing consultant at IBM. He is a member of Alumni Council. He is a member of the Maryland Defense Fund, if I got that right. Jeremy
Defense
is
Force.
Defense Force. Thank you. You're a busy guy, and so we appreciate you making time for us on the podcast. We're going to have a couple quick hit fun questions for you. What was your favorite class at Penn State?
I would say it would be my senior MIS classes. One allowed me to participate with a nonprofit organization or a series of nonprofit organizations to really just understand what type of IT solutions that they needed to advance their mission. So I thought that was a great way to just really work with community-based organizations, understand their pain points, and leverage my skill set at the time to provide them with solutions that would allow them to grow as an organization. What else? My database management class was actually really useful because it was just something I was interested in. But with one of my projects I supported the Department of the Army on, our database admin, they lived in the state of Florida, of course, me being in the DC metro area, and our project just being geographically dispersed. When he went on vacation, he was like, hey, you know SQL, right? And I was like, yeah, why? He was like, you want to cover for me? It was nice because I was actually able to kind of just pick up his work and just continue to make sure that the integrity of our database was on par and that it was available for all of our applications that had to reference our multiple databases. So I thought that was a cool class that actually allowed me to contribute to a project. So I would definitely say my MIS class is.
Your favorite campus spot when you get back to University Park?
So this is a tough one. Of course, the Hub lawn. But I would honestly say the new stair steps, or as we like to call the high school musical steps that are there as well, is just a nice place to just sit there, reflect, and just catch up with a lot of alumni or students who are on campus as well. So I would say that would be another second.
Nice. Yes, the High School Musical steps. I've heard that reference. I've never seen the movie, but I get the reference. The Paterno reading room at the library, they call that the Harry Potter room. And I've never watched Harry Potter, so I am so out of the loop. I need to catch up on my social media references or my references. Favorite Penn State game that you attended, Jeremy?
Ooh, this is a tough one. I was there for the triple overtime. I think it was against Michigan one year, but this is a tough one. I may have to be biased and say all of the Penn State versus Maryland games because I am able to talk as much trash talk as I want. And I've always been successful because Penn State has always been successful in the games that I've been to. And it's always nice to turn College Park, Maryland into State College, Maryland. So I might slightly be biased to the Penn State, Maryland games as of late.
Yeah, I'm disappointed that we're not going to be coming down there every seriously, Jeremy.
You and me both.
Who do we talk to about that?
That's above my pay grade. I can advocate, but that's up to the athletic department.
I think somebody, it might have been in the new EA college football game. They mentioned like a Penn State Maryland rivalry, and one of our former colleagues like quoted it by saying, "What is this? What they're talking about?" And it's like 41-3. And there was the one tie, of course, but yeah, there's yeah, Penn State, Maryland, and you're right. I mean, if anybody who's been to College Park for technically an away game, they know that by the end of the game, it's like 90% Penn State fans. So that's always a good time. All right.
Absolutely.
All right, Jeremy, downtown State College, Saturday night, you and 3 friends, you can get in anywhere you want, prime table. The place you pick might not be around anymore, but where are you going, and are you bringing back a place if it's not around anymore?
That's a good one. I may have to say the Den. One year, it was a couple years after I graduated. One of my friends from Maryland, I used to play for a bunch of local bands in the DC metro area, and he was a film student at I forgot what school in California. But for whatever reason, his studio company was in State College, and he was the host at the Den. And when he saw me, he just made me feel like I was like the most like the greatest celebrity of all time. So shameless plug to the Den, especially back in like the early like 2010s. I've had some good times at the Basement as well. I'm still going to go with the Den.
All right. I think that might be the first one we've got for the Lions Den. So we'll add that to the list. Just, hey, this is kind of a new question. What's a good book recommendation that you have for the audience, Jeremy? Or you can go with a TV series or a movie. Like, what are you consuming that you've enjoyed lately?
So the book I'm going to recommend is Start With Why. I read it a couple of years ago, but it's something that I always reflect upon, because a lot of times you kind of want to just get straight to the point. But when you ask the question of why, you're better prepared to actually understand why you're doing a specific task. For example, from a user requirement standpoint, when it comes to like IT management, if you start with why, you understand the pain point of the customer, and you're better able to provide them with a solution that actually meets their need versus something that you think is cool, the latest technical fad, but it doesn't really address their pain point. So Start With Why is definitely a book that I always recommend, especially to our technical practitioners, those who are in project management, or those who are in software development.
Yes, great book. And I'll just follow up on what you said, Jeremy. The Leaders Eat Last is also
That's a good book too.
Have you read that one?
I have.
Oh, that's such a good book. All right, so yeah, Simon Sinek. So Jeremy Omard recommended. We need to get like the graphic on screen. Jeremy Omard recommended, and throw up the book title. We're gonna wrap up here. We've got one more question for you, Jeremy, but just wanted to give one more shout out to Jeremy Omard, Superstar Volunteer Leader. You're listening to the Football Letter Podcast. Jeremy, we'll wrap up with this. This is sort of a broad question. You're welcome to take it any direction that you want. When you look at the impact of being a Penn Stater has had on your life personally, professionally, being a student here, being so involved as a volunteer leader, how has being a Penn Stater shaped you as a person?
That's a very deep question. I love it though. So from an educational standpoint, I honestly do believe that Penn State provided me with a world-class education. It's been something I've been able to easily reference in all of my client-based work at IBM. And even some of the lessons learned that I've received at Penn State, I've been able to also replicate in the Defense Force as well, working with a variety of units across the Maryland Army and Air National Guard, as well as other state defense forces. So I would definitely say the education has been world-class, to say the least. I would also say Penn State has also made it easy for me to continue to just give back as a person, whether it's to students, whether it's to nonprofit organizations. I feel like it's just instilled in the mission of Penn State. And just to see other Penn Staters from across all walks of life just be able to contribute to something that's bigger than themselves has definitely been something that I've been able to replicate as well. So I say the education and give back perspective are two things that easily come to my mind as being able to, that I benefited from the most being a Penn Stater.
So we've been talking with Jeremy about his Penn State experiences. Again, the Black Alumni Reunion scheduled for October 25th through 27th on the University Park campus. We'll share all the registration information when we release the episode. Registration is open now. You can go to alumni.psu.edu/events. Jeremy, This will be the highlight of my day, of my week. I am so glad to have had the opportunity to catch up with you, and thank you for everything you're doing for Penn State, Jeremy. Appreciate your time on the podcast.
No problem at all. It's been fun.
What's up, Penn Staters, and thanks for tuning into the Football Letter podcast. This week, we welcome volunteer leader Phil Bower. Phil is a two-time Penn State grad from the College of Earth and Mineral Sciences, and Phil is the president of our Madison chapter in Wisconsin. We are going to see Phil and the Madison chapter this weekend as we're headed to Wisconsin to cheer on the Nittany Lions against the Badgers. Professionally, Phil is an attorney for the Department of Natural Resources in Wisconsin, a deputy counsel. We saw Phil 3 years ago to begin the 21 season, and he is a past guest on Football Letter Live, and we are going to bring him back this week on the Football Letter podcast. Phil, we are so thrilled that you're joining us. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, thanks. It's a beautiful fall day, almost summer day here in Wisconsin.
Yeah, absolutely. Madison is a great town, a great college town. We are headed there this weekend. I'm going to tee it up for you, Phil. What do you and the chapter have planned? How are you going to welcome Penn Staters this weekend?
Sure, I think, have a great Friday night alumni mixer planned. It's located right downtown at the Fluno Center, which is part of the University of Wisconsin. So it's right there, adjacent to campus buildings. It's we're going to have some light appetizers, a cash bar, which takes credit only. So bring your credit card. Hopefully, we'll have the pep band, cheerleaders here, and it's just going to be a great time. We also plan to have a raffle to raise some money for our scholarship fund. So that's always something we look forward to is raising some money so we can give worthy residents of Wisconsin scholarships to head to Penn State.
Yes, the pep band will be there. The Penn State cheerleaders will be there. The Lionettes, the Nittany Lion. That's always a great time. And you mentioned the scholarships, which plays a little bit into my next question. When Penn State football visits town, how do you use that as an opportunity, for the chapter to maybe talk about, what you're doing that weekend and during football season, but also what the chapter is doing year round?
Sure. Well, it's an opportunity for us to showcase Madison to other Penn State alums and fans that are coming into town. Some have been here before, but we haven't played. Penn State hasn't been to Madison that frequently in recent years, so we get a lot of first-time visitors. And like I said, we love to raise money for our scholarship fund. Love to show off the town, let people know what we're here and what we're doing. We do tend to get our membership tends to be a little bit transient because a lot of our members sometimes come here for grad school at UW, or they come here to work for some large technology companies we have, and they might be here for a few years and then head off. So just trying to let everybody know we're here and what we do, and that we're small but mighty. And one benefit we have is we get a lot of other athletic teams coming into town. We've got women's volleyball coming in November, which is always exciting for us. And, a lot of times we'll have the soccer teams. Cross country was just here a couple weeks ago. So we always look forward to that. Basketball, of course, we love it when wrestling comes, and that's a big opportunity for us to get together and socialize and then watch our teams play.
Yeah, and we'll also add hockey and a few other things that so
Sure.
Penn State's always coming to town. And Phil, you're right. So this will be only the second trip that the football team has made to Madison since 2013. Of course, that huge win over the ranked Badgers in 2013, and then that exciting victory 3 years ago. So hoping for a similar result on Saturday. When Penn State football visits, what do you enjoy most about that experience and everything that comes along with it?
It's just good to have the critical mass of fans and alums here. Uh, to get to experience that. Some of our members don't get back to Beaver Stadium that frequently. Sometimes we travel to other away games in the area, but it's just great to have all the fans here in our hometown, and Penn State fans show up. They're downtown. Game day is just so exciting. Just having the we are cheers across the street. That's just really exciting.
So 3 years ago when we were in Madison, that was the season opener for 21, and that was coming off the COVID year where fans couldn't attend games. And so that was really kind of a heightened experience. It felt like, just this release of energy for fans and alumni who had to go the year before without seeing Penn State football. You hosted a Friday night event that the chapter did. What do you remember about that experience 3 years ago? Kind of everything that went into it. When you look back on that time.
Well, it was certainly a different time, and I think we weren't even sure what restrictions would be in place, and sort of different rules, and really just did our best to put something together that, and just crossed our fingers that we could continue to hold the event, and everything went well, and we were able to do it and do it safely. And so I think you're right. Like, there were a lot of people just coming out. It was that season opener, Labor Day weekend, I think, and everybody was just glad to be able to come back and watch football. And so it was just an exciting time to get to see our friends and fans who we might not have seen for a while.
You are tuned into the Football Letter podcast. We are speaking with Phil Bower, two-time Penn State grad. Phil leads our Madison chapter in Wisconsin. So, Phil, in the 3 years since we last visited Madison, you talked about kind of the chapter growing. The chapter was chartered, I believe, in the early 2010s. So a relatively still young chapter. But where have you seen the chapter make strides and make gains over the last 3 years?
Yeah, so we've, I think, tried to put a renewed focus on service projects is one thing we've been doing. You can see in a photo, this is photo is something we did this past year as part of Thon. You can see the TV behind us. That actually is Thon live streamed, but we packed snack and goodie bags for the local Ronald McDonald House for the families that stay there. A lot of them are cancer patients. And we did some book sorting with the Rotary. We've done some food pantry service. Just trying to. We find that those events are, people love to get out. They love to help. It's easier to socialize and network during those times. This photo, Aaron Malloy, former Penn State soccer player, played for our local Forward Madison Mingos for a couple years, and he came out. That was great. This looks like our 2021 mixer. But yeah, so I think service projects is where we've been focusing, and then we're starting to get back together and have football watch parties. And like I said, women's volleyball is a huge draw, and wrestling. Our local chapter members love to come out for those events. So that's kind of where we've been, I think, growing in the past couple years.
And then flipping the question around a little bit, as you look ahead to the next, 6 months, the next, year or so, what are some things on the horizon that the chapter is going to be working on that's got you fired up?
Yeah, I think actually some service projects, we're trying to pull together for a couple different organizations. We're actually asking our chapter members, what's important to them, who are they involved with, what other groups, and then trying to find some service projects that focus on those interests, and also trying to do some service projects in the area where we know we've got some young alums that work for some different companies, and trying to do some projects near them so they can leave work and they can join us and try and get them engaged. So we're excited about that as well.
So when Penn State football's not in town and it's game day, and Nittany Lions are in Beaver Stadium or elsewhere across the Big Ten landscape, what is game day like for the chapter in terms of the watch party, and how do you try to bring the energy in that environment?
Sure, I not gonna lie. Sometimes it's tough because we're in Badger country, and with kickoff times sometimes not getting announced until late in the day. It's sometimes tough, but we've been able to find some good locations that, as long as we're not competing with the Badger game, they'll let us get the game on a big screen with sound. And so it's great when that can happen, and we get all we probably have 15 to 20 core people just come in, enjoy each other's company, watch the game, try to bring out some new friends and fans. So it's pretty casual. We don't have a lot of pomp and circumstance, but uh, just watching the game and hopefully seeing a Penn State victory.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of it sounds like, you're providing the opportunity for Penn Staters to come together on game day. How important is that year round? You mentioned, the service projects and the other athletic teams coming through with Madison. The importance of providing that home base in Madison, giving Penn Staters a place where they can connect and unite. How important is that?
I I think I think it's very important. It's important to me. I think it's important to a lot of our members. It's just a connection we all have, we all share, and having that year round. I mean, makes some people are traveling here. I'm a Pennsylvania native. A lot of folks didn't grow up here, and so they're coming to a new place, and it's just a way to meet people right off the bat and make connections. Can help professionally. It can just help create some friendships. So recently this fall already, we had a group of Penn Staters who were traveling through in their RVs, found us, reached out, and came and joined our football watch party for West Virginia. So um, that's a cool part of it as well. It's just all these connections that bring us together.
Well, Phil, let's delve a little bit into your Penn State story. You said you grew up in Pennsylvania. How did Penn State become the school for you?
Um, well, it's interesting. I have a senior in high school who's applying to colleges right now, and we talked about this the other day, and I said Penn State was the only college I applied to. Um, I have an older brother. I toured a lot of colleges with him. Um, I think I saw a lot of places, and I wanted to go into engineering. I loved the blue band. I had friends in the blue band. I ultimately became a member of the blue band myself in the drum line for 4 years. But uh, I'd been up to Penn State football games, so I loved the atmosphere. I loved the campus, and I loved the engineering programs. And I liked that I didn't necessarily need to choose that engineering direction, uh, right off the bat, which ultimately I did that anyway and ended up in the College of Earth and Mineral Sciences and an engineering program there instead of the College of Engineering. But um, I liked the small size of Earth and Mineral Sciences and just the personal attention and the resources they had. So I don't know. It was the only school I applied to. I was fortunate to get in and spend a great 6 years there. Although I got 2 degrees out of the 6 years, so um, it totally worth it.
Well, let's stick with the blue band for a second. Zach Schrader, chapter president and Oregon blue band alumnus. He's on the show this season on the podcast. How did being in the blue band, Phil? How did that kind of enrich your student experience?
Uh, it was amazing. Just you really developed some really close friendships. It was obviously it's a lot of time. It's an investment of time and energy. A lot of practice. I also did the pep band throughout the winter for the winter sports and things. So it was almost a year round activity, and it's kind of just where you're where you make your friends. It keeps you involved, keeps you connected. I got to go to some amazing places. Saw some great Penn State games. I was in Miami for the last second win down there, which I think I just saw was just like 25 years ago or something, which I was like, it's that long ago. And traveled to most of the Big Ten schools with either the pep band or the full band. So saw some neat places, and got to play in pep bands for some of the other sports and their playoffs. Actually, the first time I was ever in Madison was 1998 for the women's volleyball Final Four. Came out here, the pep band came out. It was December. We got to fly out with the team. Made some friendships with that team, and we made some friends with the Wisconsin band. Penn State, they won their first match, but ended up in a tight 5-set loss to Long Beach State. And Misty May was the star player for Long Beach State, but it was just an amazing experience. I said I liked Madison, and I didn't know find myself living here, less than 10 years after that. I moved here in 2007, but so that was just a great all around experience as well.
Was it work that brought you out to Madison then, Phil?
No, I married a Wisconsin native. Met on the East Coast, and we moved to Wisconsin in 2007.
Well, that sounds great. It all worked out. And once you were in Madison, I'm wondering, how were you involved in the chapter, either at the beginning, or how did you ultimately connect with the chapter, given that you actually moved to Madison before the chapter was formed then? And so how did you first learn about the chapter, and how did that come about?
So I'm a big Penn State fan. I wanted to make those connections when I was out here, and at the time there was just a Wisconsin chapter to serve the whole state. Primarily, their core group was in Milwaukee, which is about an hour and a half drive away. And I had a newborn in 2007. I had my second son in 2009. So I had young kids, and it was sort of tough to travel to do things, and we recognized we had a lot of opportunities here in Madison with the athletic teams coming. So I started talking to the the Alumni Association. Tom Hammond, who's left for a while, is back at the Alumni Association. He worked with him, and we did kind of a survey, I think, to see how many alums were in the area, and do we have critical mass, and could we do this? And we had some initial interest meetings, and decided that it was worth it to form a separate Madison chapter, a new chapter. And so we did that, and I can't remember our official founding year, but it was early 2010s, and we've just been going since then. And we try to work closely with the Wisconsin chapter. We try to do some joint events. Hopefully you'll see some of them out this weekend for the Wisconsin game. But we just felt that we could kind of do some of our own things here in Madison. So that's how we got started.
Well, that's great. Thanks for sharing it. And shout out to Tom Hammond, Director of Engagement for the Alumni Association. Like yourself, Tom is a two-time Penn State grad. And that's one of those things where, we have, chapters pop up or chapters form, and it takes, a lot of effort from our volunteers, Phil. So, my question is, what inspired you, to step up and to take this leadership role with the chapter?
I just wanted to see it happen. So I wanted to create a space for Penn State alums and fans here in Madison, to be able to welcome people here when they come for other events and activities. And I want to do these things. So I was like, why don't I just help create them? And of course, we've got a dedicated team of volunteers and board that help come up with the ideas and make the phone calls to local restaurants about, can we get the Penn State game on TV this weekend? And do all those things. So certainly not just me, but I think I wanted to see it happen. I wanted to see the space, and so that's why I stepped up and did it.
Well, we're glad that you did, and we're thankful that you did. And like our volunteer leaders in places like Ann Arbor and Columbus, you get special extra credit and for living in a passion Big Ten town for another university. And so, yeah, I'd love to hear some of those phone calls on Saturday, or some of those conversations. Can we get the Penn State game on, and versus the hometown Badgers? You are tuned into the Football Letter podcast. We are speaking with Phil Bower, two-time Penn State grad. Phil, we just got a couple more questions for you. We appreciate you joining us this week. When you're back on campus, or when you do have the opportunity to come back, what are one or two favorite campus spots for you that might not necessarily be at the top of the list for other people? Maybe a place that holds special place for you.
Well, that's a good question. Ones that aren't popular to everyone. Well, I mean, it wasn't really there when I was on campus, but I love the Arboretum, especially the water lily displays and fountains. I just think that's just a fantastic addition to campus. I did a lot of stuff on the west side of campus, so I always like to go back kind of over that area along Burroughs, and just kind of walk up and down there like I used to do. Maybe go into the Earth Mill Science buildings, and I'll usually have some museum displays, kind of check out what's new there. But the other place I kind of always liked was the little wooded area up by Eisenhower Chapel up there, and I guess it's now the Pascagoula Spiritual Center. But it could be misremembering. There was a little patch of woods up there that you could walk through right on the north end of campus. So that I kind of like to just wander through there sometimes. Hopefully, it's still there.
Yeah, still there. Hort's Woods, I believe that's the name of it. Yeah, by the Forum, and kind of not hidden necessarily, but yeah, it's one of those hidden gems, I guess you could say on campus. And no, those are good options, Phil. Those are good. So I got to given your blue band, connection, when you see the pep band, I'm thinking 3 years ago when we were in Madison and the pep band and everything was there. What are your emotions like when you see, the blue band performing nowadays, or you see the pep band? It's kind of like a football letterman watching the football team. There's a special connection there. And so, when you've got the opportunity to see the blue band play, how special is that for you?
I mean, it's really special. It gives me chills. Just hearing the music. I've never had the opportunity to been able to get back for homecoming to march with the alumni band, the homecoming parade. That's on my, bucket list at some point. But just when they start playing, and I've been back to games at Beaver Stadium and things, and when they come out in the field, it's just chills. It's just a lot of memories that come back, and it is just such a big part of my life for so long, and a lot of early mornings on game days, especially for those noon kickoffs. So it's just cool. It's what I love about the fall. It's like that crisp, cool air, and actually where I live now, in Madison, when my windows are open in the fall, I can hear the Wisconsin band practicing a lot. And so just hearing that marching band music, it's just really cool, and love to support all those band members. I'm glad they still have the opportunity to do these pep bands and travel around and just be good ambassadors for the university and good musicians. So looking forward to seeing them.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to live right along Park Avenue, Phil, and I could hear the blue band like in the evening when I was outside, just taking out the recycling or anything. And that is just, yeah, you're right. It's a special feeling. And you're also right. And I think most folks know this, but blue band students put in long hours. It's like 6 a.m. wake up calls. We went to Purdue one year, and the Purdue band at 6 a.m. was already in full uniform. And so it is something that it takes a lot of commitment, devotion, passion. And so, yeah, just thanks for sharing that connection with the blue band, and glad to hear that still holds a special place for you.
Yeah, I think for noon kickoff, I think I was, well, at some point during my band career, we moved into what we called the Shack. It's not the new building they have, but it was a building which we didn't have for a couple of years. We just had trailers. If you remember the trailers out along the IM fields out there, but then we had a Shack, and we'd be up there. I think 5:30. I played cymbals, so I was polishing my cymbals at 5:30 in the morning, doing wake up calls for everybody. On the drum line, we practiced late Friday nights. We had band practice, full band, and then we would we'd get Domino's pizza, and then we would practice until we had our music memorized, which depending on the week, could be late, and then we'd be up the next morning and go all day. So definitely I'm not sure I could do that now at my age, but when you're 20, somehow you do it.
Yeah, when you're 20, anything is possible. You've got unlimited energy and unlimited passion, and yeah, I remember those days. And so yeah, appreciate you sharing that, Phil. And Phil, we'll get you out of here on this. When you look at the role that Penn State has played in your life personally, professionally, I mean, you talked about the stories and the connections during our conversation here. How big of a role has Penn State had in your life, and what has been the impact of being a Penn Stater for you?
Oh, that's a big question. It certainly it set me up, for my, current career. Although I went to school for engineering, and got an engineering degree. I ended up shifting gears and going to law school and becoming an attorney. But it definitely professionally, it set up gave me the background I need. A lot of my work involves science and engineering, the legal work I do. So set me up professionally, just set me up with friends for life, all around the country. Um, and set me up with, like, it doesn't even need to be a friend. You travel anywhere in the world, you see somebody wearing a Penn State hat, a Penn State shirt, and you could say "we are" and strike up a conversation, and that's just awesome. And it's just socially, coming out to Wisconsin, moving out here, and it's helped me build friendships here and relationships here, on the social side. So that's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, Phil, we got to have you back because I want to hear the story about how a 2-time graduate from the College of Earth and Mineral Sciences ended up as a lawyer. So that'll be the hook for when we have you back on the podcast again. Phil, we are very much looking forward to seeing you this weekend. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Great. Thanks. I appreciate it, John.